Well, good to see you, Mike. How you doing today, man?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. Playing in a strip club tonight. That's a little different for you guys, huh?
A lot of us didn't even know this place was a strip club until we got here today.
Yeah, the polls inside here are kind of telling, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, Devildriver, man, they're one of the most badass bands still going, still kicking ass all these years later. I gotta wonder, what is the secret?
The secret?
Yeah.
I suppose one of the biggest things is just making sure you're in a band with people that you get along with, or at least can get along with, and share the same hope for what you want for the future of the band. But I think that's a really big thing. I think a lot of bands end up breaking up because one or two members or multiple members can't get along with one another. I always tell kids that ask me what to do to make a band successful, and I say that my first thing is always make sure that you have people that you get along with. Otherwise, it's not going to work, or you're going to be miserable.
That's good advice. I know recently, before the last record cycle, Devildriver underwent a huge, basically reinvention, where you brought in 3 new members, and that was the first time in quite a while that you had any sort of lineup change. Was that a really big...
Well, our bass player situation has always kind of been up and down ever since Miller left the band. Mm-hmm. And with Jeff and John, Jeff just didn't want to tour anymore. He was cut off of the touring lifestyle, but it can get old, and it's not for everybody, and he wanted to move on and do something else, so he did. And Berkman really wanted to do his own thing, and he's got a new band together. It's coming out soon called Bad Wolves.
Killer band, by the way.
Yeah, they're great. And I went to their first show. He and I are still on really good terms, talk all the time, and I really hope. I think he's definitely got a good chance of going around too with another successful band. I hope he does.
Yeah, definitely. It's so cool to hear you spout goodwill towards him. All the time that I get on these message boards and YouTube comments, they're so quick to say just because so-and-so left the band, the rest of the band obviously have some type of bad blood against them.
No, I talked to all of them. I talked to Berkman the most. And the funny thing is like he and I used to be the ones that used to argue the most, because toward the end, he and I were writing the majority of the material together, and he and I saw things fairly differently, but we always made it work, but it was always a bit of a struggle, and we definitely had our share of arguments. But the funny thing is we don't get to see each other as much, but I definitely feel closer to him now that we don't have to work together. And maybe we will work together again on something in the future, but I don't ever see us being in a band together again.
Yeah, it'd be cool though to hear you guys again. With him having left and Jeff also having left, how does that affect like the core writing foundation of Devildriver? Did you do most of the writing?
On Trust No One I did, and I went into that record wanting to write it all by myself, and possibly having Mark Lewis, a producer, help out with some things. But when I first met Austin and Neil, and I had heard some of Neil's demos that we were going to possibly turn into Devildriver songs, and I wasn't really particularly stoked on them right away, but then I found out that he didn't really put a lot of work into them. They were just more like skeletons of songs, and we ended up working on them. And the funny thing is, the first song we worked on together ended up being Daybreak, which was the first track released from Trust No One. So everything came full circle. When I first joined the band, I wrote Hold Back the Day. That was the first album that came out, the first song that came off of that album, and off of Fury. And then when we got another new guitar player, he writes the first song that he ends up writing for the band, ends up being the first single we released from the record.
It's really funny how that works.
Yeah, but just me, Neil, and Austin. Ashes wasn't around for the writing process. We hadn't hired him yet, but it was a lot of fun. It was very stress-free. I hadn't really spent any time writing with other people other than when I've been producing in the past. And it was nice to work with new people in Devildriver that it brought some new positivity into the band, and it was a really cool process. And I just love the way that Neil writes, and we were able to communicate with each other very well, and we never argue. And I literally, I mean that, like, never.
That's
the whole album process, me, Neil, and Austin never got into one single argument. It was a really smooth process, and with our new album coming out, the covers record, same thing. I mean, that was mostly just me and Neil rewriting those songs together, and Austin. I don't think Austin ever came up, but I would just send him tracks without drums in it and with a click in it, and let him do his thing and write his parts. And the whole country covers record, which is going to be called Outlaws Till The End, was the fastest record that we've ever done. I mean, I think Neil and I did the rewriting process, and then actually did all the guitars and bass for that record in 2 months.
Wow, that's very quick.
Like, we just cranked it out really, really fast. But it came out way cooler than I ever expected it would be.
Yeah, what's the story behind that, man? I mean, that's a very ambitious move for a metal band to make, is to make a country record, a cover record.
Des was poking around the idea of doing a covers record for a long time, and then he had an idea of doing a covers record just punk rock songs that we would do in our fashion. But I kind of had flashbacks when he mentioned that of us doing the Golden God Awards a few years ago when we were on our Beast record cycle, and we performed Dead to Rights, and then we did 4 Black Flag songs at this award ceremony, and we did one with Jamie Josta, one with Mac Cavalera, Des did one, and then this guy Mike, that's a professional skateboarder that used to sing for Black Flag, did another song with us. And it just wasn't very much fun for me. I mean, I respect punk rock, but I just didn't feel there was enough material there for me to work with. I mean, some of the songs are like 1.5 minutes long, and I don't have as much love for punk to do a whole record out of it. I don't really have that much love for country either. But there are some songs I like, and I do really like all the songs, the originals that we did on our record. But just listening to the songs, it was, and picking it apart in my head, going, what could I possibly do with this to make it sound like Devildriver? I felt like country was a better option for us to go, and I know Des has a big love for country music. So, and he's slowly gotten me into it. And the other thing too is we did do a country song called Black Soul Choir.
I remember
by 16 horsepower on Beast, and a lot of people don't know that that's a cover song, because a lot of people haven't heard of 16 horsepower, but it was a very obscure song that I think came out very good. And I was like, well, if we can do, Sail isn't a country song, but it's kind of, I put it in the same category where it's just like you're taking a very non-metal song and making it metal, and the same thing with Black Soul Choir. Whereas we've done Wasted Years and Holier Than Thou by Metallica and Iron Maiden and covered those songs, and this is kind of like, yeah, whatever, you made a metal song metal.
That was for Kerrang, correct?
Yeah, I think they were both for Kerrang. And I think I've listened to those songs maybe once or twice ever since we left the studio. But Sail and Black Soul Choir are definitely things that I hear a lot more feedback from fans, and a lot of the songs that we picked for Outlaws Till The End, whether you're into that type of music or not, you've heard these songs. So I think it's got a little something for everyone on there, and it's going to sound familiar, but more in the vein of Devildriver. I mean, everything is heavy as hell.
Yeah, you can almost say Black Soul Choir was like a pretense to what was coming, and that's cool. Whenever you say the title Outlaws Till The End, that really fits the Devildriver aesthetic. I like that a lot. So I feel like no matter what, it will feel like a property of Devildriver, you know?
It is a covers record, but it's done completely in the vein of Devildriver. A lot of people are like, wait a second, you guys are going to try to do a country record? It's like, no. We're taking country songs and turning them into heavy metal songs. You know, there's a big difference. We're not a country band by any sorts.
No, there's going to be way more distortion than country would ever allow, right?
And we got a lot of guests on it, you know, Burton from Fear Factory, John Cash Jr. and his wife both sang on a couple songs, Randy from Lamb of God.
Wow. This
Who
is
else
stacked.
did we get? I believe, I think it hasn't done it yet, but I believe Lee Bing from the band Fear, which is one of Dez's idols, is also set to do something on it. Mark Morton did a guitar solo. I mean, the list goes on. Wednesday 13th, I think, did something on it too that I haven't even heard yet. So, but it should be getting mixed right now. I actually need to text our producer and ask because I'm getting antsy to hear some mixes.
Yeah. Now that you haven't heard any of the mixes, what would you say the timeline is on hearing something publicly from that record?
Probably not until early 2018.
Okay. Now the release of it, would that follow suit in early 2018 or more like spring?
I would say early first quarter
of
2018. We don't have a set date yet, but that's when I imagine it'll be getting released.
Now, how does that affect the timeline for the new Devildriver material?
It's funny you asked that because we were just discussing that today on the bus.
Good timing.
I mean, ideally, I would like to get another new Devildriver record out early 2019, but I don't. With our tour schedule, I don't really see that happening. So it will. It kind of depends. We got to see what happens because we're either going to do a bit more touring or we're going to take some time off to do a record. And there hasn't been a. We got to see how things unfold first.
Of course.
But Neil has a ton of tunes already. I haven't been writing a whole lot yet. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't have any, full-blown songs yet. But I need to. As soon as when we get off from this tour, I believe. I'm going to have all of November and December off, and I usually find if I really hustle, it takes me about a week to get a song to the point where I'm ready to give it to Dez. So, given that time frame, I won't write a song every week, but I'll probably have like 5 or 6 songs done before New Year's.
Cool.
So the writing process will start, but I'm gonna have to see how it goes.
What do you feel the vibe's going to be for the next record? Trust No One did try a couple new things. There were those clean atmospheric sections that were really cool, creating dynamic in Devildriver sound that maybe necessarily wasn't there before. What do you feel like you want to do differently on this record, if anything?
I kind of want to change my writing style up a little bit, not so much as the way I write, but I would say kind of a little more so on the structure of the songs. When we were rewriting all the songs for Outlaws Til The End, I learned a lot of cool songwriting tricks that I kind of found that I had gotten stuck into a little rut of how to structure my songs, and really dissecting the country tunes and looking how they piece different things together. Wasn't a far cry from the way that Devildriver does it, but there's just little things I noticed, like, oh, they did that there, or rather than taking 5 riffs that completely sound different and meshing them together, like just focusing on one riff and manipulating it, and making sure musically there's a core theme rather than just bunching a bunch of riffs together. And that's some things I want to focus on a little bit more on the songwriting process for the next one, on top of getting a little bit weird.
Cool. Now, what do you mean by weird?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't really, I definitely, there's songs on the record where, I always say I'm not going to ham it up on guitar and do these outlandish solos or anything like that, but I kind of always end up doing it on at least like 1 or 2 songs. And
House Divided.
House Divided for sure was one. Testimony of Truth, has a really long solo on it. And I kind of go back and forth. Like, I think they'll be both. Like, I really would like to write another song more like in the vein of like The Axe Shall Fall, which has a little bit more of a progressive vibe to it without being progressive, you know, because it's not 10 minutes long.
Right. It's got that organ that closes out the record too.
Right. You know, and just actually Neil asked me to put some Hammond software in my computer for the next cycle. So TuneTrack hooked me up with some software so we can start incorporating, you know, just different vibes. You know, I'm not going to say it's going to be on every song, but maybe a song here, a song there, and I don't know. You know, now that me and Neil and Austin have spent some time together on the road, like we've literally just all three of us were basically put in a room together and said, write a record. And I had maybe about 30-40% of it done already by the time I met them, but we were just getting to know each other. And now after spending time on the road, like we still have never been in arguments. You know, we really enjoy each other's company. And it's like now we are comfortable with each other and we know each other better. You know, we're more like family now because we tour together. We feel like, you know, they feel like my brothers. So, whereas in the last writing process, I think we were kind of walking on eggshells with each other because we didn't want to offend one another. Now we've learned that we've come so close that I don't think we can offend one another. It's like if Neil came up to me, he's like, nah, Mike, that riff sucks, or that part sucks. I'm not going to get offended, rather than because it's Neil telling me, it's not this guy I just met, you know, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that too. You've only been writing with each other, not even fully actually, with Austin not even really joining in the writing process. You've only been working together for one record cycle, and you already feel this close with them.
Well, it's actually kind of two now because we just did finish the covers record, so it kind of feels like we did a record and a half, maybe. Not a full 2 records because, you know, we were rewriting. We weren't writing. You know, we did put in some solos and some intros and some outros that, you know, we wrote from scratch. And actually some of the songs, like Whiskey River, for instance, by Willie Nelson, it doesn't sound anything like the original at all. The vocals are still there, the structure's still there, but Neil completely rewrote that song, you know. So it does feel like we've done more than one record together at this point. But time on the road together, I mean, when you're spending 9 weeks on a bus together, and it's you become pretty close pretty quick.
Definitely, and you want to be with people that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and I when I wake up in the morning and I know we always start at noon, and Neil drives down. Sometimes Austin will come down, and you know, back in the day, I used to kind of just I'd be half excited about writing, half not, because I knew there would probably be a lot of arguments and whatnot. But I wake up and go, man, I got to write all day today. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it's Austin and Neil coming over. Okay, I'm ready to write, and I just have a big smile on my face. You know, it's a different vibe, and hopefully that won't change.
That's great to hear, seriously. So I want to talk to you 10 years ago, the last time Words released. And back then, you had something to prove. You were hungry. On that album, there was like a dynamic shift from the previous two, the first 2 records Devildriver had done. Now, when you compare that to Devildriver now, 10 years later, you guys are more like veterans that have been around for a while, and you're starting, once again, I feel like, to be more experimental from what you're telling me. So can you tell me what the difference between that period of time for Devildriver was and what the goals were compared to now, what Devildriver is and what Devildriver wants to do?
I don't know what I want to do with Devildriver at this point, and I think I've always had that outlook on things. You know, people always ask me what the new record's going to be like and where you want to take it, what do you want to do, and the answer is I don't know. I'm not going to know until I sit down and I start writing. We do have a different mind frame, I think, that, you know, than we did when we did the last 9 Words. It's been 10 years. You know, we're more mature, and you know, even playing those songs live and playing those riffs, I think it makes you, or for me anyway, it makes me not want to write that way anymore. And I play some of the riffs, and you know, when we're playing them live, and I think to myself, like, I would never write that these days. So it's like, you know, you change, and when you're writing, you know, it's all about what you're feeling at that exact moment, at that point in your life. And you could write something awesome and you'll perceive it as shit, or you can write shit and perceive it as awesome, you know, and it's a struggle to, and that's what I found. I write better with people because I need someone there to tell me to stop and go, that's good, work off that. Because sometimes I just kind of throw shit away. I'm like, that's no good. Or I'll write something, I won't be able to play it, and I'll work on it so long, and then I'll be able to play it, and by that time I'm bored of it, and I will never use it. So that's one good thing I like having about Neil around is, in Austin too, is they're good guides for me to have, and I think I do the same thing with them. And, you know, over time, you know, I've dealt with writer's block, but I've found ways to work my way out of it, and over time, even just getting up, walking away, and taking a 5-minute break and then just coming back. You know, it's just I've learned if you're really struggling to write, you need to take a break, because it seems like your mind is just it's literally a mental block. And I've found different tricks, you know, to work my way out of it, because one way or another, you got a deadline and you got to meet it. And I don't think I would get anything done without a deadline.
Is that pressure? You work better under pressure?
Yeah, I think it's kind of in the subconscious too. I mean, I've always done things on my own at home, and without a deadline, it usually never gets finished. I have so much unfinished work on my computer at home, it's unbelievable. And 90% of it will never get finished.
Is that musically? Like music work?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you keep it aside for Devildriver, or were you just kind of writing your own thing?
Both. I mean, I've written music for me. I did an album for a music library called Extreme Music a while ago, and they licensed it out to movies and TV shows and commercials and stuff like that. And I've always tried to do more records for them, but it seems Devildriver takes up the majority of my time, so I never really that a lot of the stuff that I haven't finished is stuff that I've written for movies and TV shows and whatnot. That's literally still sitting on my computer. And you know, it'll get done eventually.
Yeah. Do you feel like writing for a movie, or writing for a TV show or a commercial, like with that purpose in mind, do you write the same way for Devildriver? Do you picture that feeling and that vibe in your mind, like it would be something epic or depressing or upbeat?
No. I mean, I know a lot of people that are looking for music to put in TV shows or movies are looking for stuff with a lot of dynamics, a lot of ups and downs, and it makes it easier to, you know, give the viewer more of an impact. But there's only been one case. I did score a trailer called Queen Gloria a while ago, and that was the first time I actually was given footage to score music to. And the stuff that I've done for Extreme Music in the past, it was more like, here's 10 songs and metal songs for a music catalog that at the time didn't have very good metal songs for people to choose from. And so it was rather easy to get an album's worth of metal songs to them. But those songs, for the most part, were, you know, things that had been written that weren't used for Devildriver, that were just leftovers.
Right.
And I had my friend Carl sing on it, and that was it. Just, well, you know, God, we gave that record to them so long ago. That was like 6 years ago. So it's been out there for a while.
So you told me that whenever you were writing the last kind words, when you think of that now, you're like, I would never write stuff like that. What do you feel like you were going for back then?
I think we were just wanted to make sure that we were topping the Fury of Our Maker's Hands in the self-titled, because I remember actually having a conversation with Berklin. I believe we were on the Fury record cycle, and we were in Denver, Colorado, at this place called the Gothic Theater, and he and I had been up all night drinking, and we were sitting out front of the RV, back when we were touring in an RV, in the back alley watching the sun come up, and we were discussing, you know, what we were going to do for the last kind words, because it was kind of like do or die time. Like, we seemed like we had won over a bit more people from the first record to the second record, and now it's like, okay, here's number 3. Like, we really got to top it. And I think we did. A lot of people still to this day say the last kind of words is their favorite record. And I don't remember going in and saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I think being in a touring band, you're somewhat accustomed to what's going on in the metal community and how people are writing, what people are doing, and you know, there's one thing for sure. I'm not saying that we'll never have we've done songs on 7 strings to tune down to drop A. We've never played them live, but I don't ever see myself getting an 8-string guitar and writing Devildriver tunes on that. I mean, I do like playing 7 strings from time to time, but that's about as far as I go. Like, one thing I can tell you, like, me and Neil are pretty strictly 6-string guitar players, and that's what I feel comfortable on. That's what I like playing. Every now and then I'll do a song on a 7-string, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, do you feel growth as a guitarist comes more from learning to play and stick with that one instrument? Like, for instance, you say you won't go outside of 6-string guitars. Do you feel like growth comes more from that, or more for trying to learn like 7 and 8-string techniques?
It can be looked at both ways. I mean, it's what you want. I mean, I think some guitar players would be doing themselves a disservice by going to adding more strings to the guitar, where some guitars, you know, guitar players need to go there. But for me, like I said, I like playing 7 strings from time to time. I picked up an 8 a few times, and it's just kind of like, this is just not my style. It's too low. You do have to approach things differently when you're in an 8-string realm. You know, I think your tone has to be different. You do have to write a little bit differently. I think that 8th string is something that's there usually for salt and pepper rather than hanging on it all the time, because I mean, for the most part on a 6-string, I mean, we're on the 3 lowest strings 80-90% of the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to an 8-string, you know, it's just like you get to such a low tuning, you might as well be playing bass. And I think it's cool. You know, I'm definitely not against it. You know, and when we were on tour with After the Burial, you know, they were telling me they were in the middle of recording a new record a few years ago, and they were using a 9-string. And it's just like, Jesus, how low can you go? But
it's like limbo.
Yeah, and I remember one time I did an interview one time before we did Beast, and I was talking about experimenting with new tunings. Never happened. Like, it's just, not into it.
You got a comfort spot. Like, you're in a comfort zone right now, and you'll probably stay in that way until you feel like you've exhausted that creative fuel for that one specific area. You know.
Mm-hmm. You know, and Outlaws Til The End, you know, we did a lot of stuff with lap steel guitar and just using slides on our guitars. And I've always had slides sitting at my desk all the time for, you know, whenever I wanted to use them. Hardly ever used them, but I actually used them quite a bit on the Outlaws Til The End record. And it's something I like. So there's one thing that we'll probably incorporate in the new Devildriver record a little bit more.
Cool.
And it came out. I think the coolest solo on Outlaws Til The End is on our version of, what was it? 1,000 Miles to Nowhere, and where Neil does a lap steel solo.
That's
and
awesome.
He knows it too, and I'm just like, dude, hands down, that is the coolest thing you've ever written, and will probably be the coolest thing you've ever written in my eyes. Like, the solo that he did on that song is just awesome, and it's all done on lap steel. And I want to get myself one now after watching Neil play it, because I can't play that thing, but I need to learn.
You got something new to learn there.
Yep.
So, closing out, what can Devildriver fans look forward to for the next 6 months or so?
Well, we're obviously going to take a little bit of time off for the holidays, and after this tour is over, I mean, it's almost November by the time we get home.
I mean, much deserved. This was one of the biggest album cycles you've ever had.
Yeah, it's been long. And we did a record in the middle of this record cycle, which is also very bizarre. But definitely more touring in the States. I know there's talk of us going to Australia and Japan next year. And next year we will be doing a lot of festivals out in Europe again. And hopefully, I think we're going to try to put together a really good headline run for Europe, as well as the States too, but I think the Europe headline run will probably come in the fall or winter time of next year. And I think we seem to spend more time on this record cycle in the States than we did in Europe.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I think for the remainder of the cycle, I think it's going to be the opposite. I think we're going to spend more time in Europe than the States.
So it's going to be more like getting Trust No One over to other areas you haven't been to yet, while also getting the Outlaws to the End covers EP out?
Well, honestly, I mean, we're still obviously going to be pressing Trust No One. You know, we're playing 3 songs off that record right now. And I think, you know, Dez was telling me the other day there's a couple more he definitely wants to add into the set and possibly take a few out that we haven't played yet. And that's one thing I like about Trust No One. We've already given that record more attention than we have like Winter Kills and Beast. I mean, we're not playing anything off Beast on this album or on this tour. We're only playing one song off. Now we're playing 2 songs off Winter Kills, Sail and Ruthless. But we've at this point, it's always been rare for at this point to have 3 songs off a new record in the set.
Yeah.
And there's definitely 1 or 2 more that I would love to play live, such as I want to play For What It's Worth live and Bad Deeds. And the funny thing is we've getting quite a bit of feedback on the B-sides off that record. Evil on Swift Wings and The House Divided.
I think they're the 2 best on the record aside from My Night Sky and Daybreak. I really do. And Testimony of Truth as well.
Nice. Well, see, yeah, and that kind of surprised me. And I was actually a little bit bummed out because those 2 songs got released to the public before the whole album did. And I was, in my mind, I was kind of like, whoa, why are we releasing B-sides to the public before the actual record? These are supposed to come later. Like, there's a reason they're not on the record.
Yeah, there's no surprise there.
But, you know, sometimes I see things from, you got to look at things from a fan perspective, you know, and I'm like, well, I guess people like, you know, to me, those are the songs, like, we have better songs than these 2, you know, that's why they're not on the record. But a lot of people have taken into those songs, you know, and they like them a lot, which I'm happy as hell because, I wrote most of those songs I wrote.
I think timing played to the benefit there, though. I really do. With them having released early, even if that's kind of a weird decision, people have more time to soak them in. Therefore, they have more time to be receptive to them and get used to them. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, yeah, that was a weird decision, but at the same time, it worked in your benefit.
Yeah. And even when I would never have chosen Daybreak to be the first song that were released from the record, but when Dez and when Blasco was managing us at the time, he was asking my opinion of, you know, what we should release first, and I'm like, and my answer was straight up, you guys decide, because I'm way too connected to this record and I'm way too close to it to, you know, I see it differently than everyone else does. Because I spent so much time with it, I spent so much time working on it, and it literally, like, engulfed 2 years of my life writing that record. And you know, it was rough too. You know, I was really busy. A lot of my friends at home were like wondering if I was still alive because my dad owns his own business, and it's something I might take over in the future. It's a hardware store. And it's been in my family for like 50 years, and my other siblings have no interest in taking it over. So during that time, I was working 60 hours a week at my dad's store, and then the whole next week I would take off and just work on the record. And then the week after that, I would work for 60 weeks. You know, it's just kind of like learning the business 1 week, and the next week would be working on Devildriver stuff.
Just constant work.
And that went on for over a year. And after a while, I was just like, by the time we had gotten to vocals and all the music was done and it was all recorded and Mark, our producer, was down at Dez's house, I was supposed to go down there to help track vocals a little bit here and there, or just kind of just be there for moral support. And Dez blew his voice out, which he usually does in the first couple days, and then he's got to take some time off to let his voice heal, and then after that he's good. It happens almost every cycle, every recording process, you know. But by the time his voice healed, I already planned a surfing trip to Australia, and I was like, boys, I'm out of here. Like, here's the music. I'm gone. I'm going to Australia for, I think I was there for like 3 weeks. And
lengthy vacation.
A very lengthy vacation. And yeah, I just took myself out of the equation. Like, I knew Dez, he always does a great job. Mark always does a great job. So I felt comfortable. I was just like, guys, you don't need me. Just go do your thing.
I mean, you probably felt obligated to have a break too. Yeah,
and I think almost me being down there might have not been a good idea, because if I heard something I didn't like, or a lot of times it takes me time after Dez puts vocals on a song. I literally need like a week or two to absorb it, because it changes everything. So you've been listening to the song for a year, 2 years, and all of a sudden someone comes and puts vocals on it and changes everything.
It's like a new song.
It's like a new song, and I need time to absorb it. And honestly, I don't know. I never know right off the bat whether I like it or not. Testimony of Truth was the first song I heard Dez do vocals on. I was really impressed. When I heard that vocal and the verse come in, I was like, and that was, for me, was the most important song on the record. Like, you could fuck up every song. Don't fuck up Testimony of Truth.
It's the intro. You guys always have great intro tracks.
Well, we didn't know that was going to be the intro at the time. We decided that after vocals are done. But as soon as I heard him come in and on the verses of that song, I was just like, oh, thank God. And I knew, once I heard that, I knew the rest of the record was going to be fine.
That's killer, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Matthew was?
Yes.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to talk with you, Mike.